Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're doing well. Welcome to another video and welcome back to another cozy wrap up. I am filming this a bit later than I would have wanted, but it's coming to you nonetheless. Hopefully you guys are still excited to hear all the books I read in the month of April. Let me tell you, it was a crazy month and in the best way possible. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Grab yourself something to drink, something to snack on. It's gonna be a long video, so buckle your seatbelts. Today I am wrapping my too many books, not enough bookshelves mug, because that is more than true. As you can see, I'm now double stacked. It's great. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm gonna talk over stats and then we'll go over all the books that I read. Okay, so in the month of April, I read a whopping, drumroll please, 28 books. This is my best reading month of all time. Last year, my best reading month was 26 books, and so I definitely beat that one with 28 books this month. I read a total of 10,087 pages, which, mind blown, which averages out to about 336 pages a day, and an average book size of about 360 pages per book. Here's the one that always baffles me. I listened to 249 hours of audiobooks. What the hell? And then as for my formats, nobody is surprised, but I read 23 books mixed media, which means my audiobook and my physical book or my ebook. I listened to 3 books strictly on audio, and I read 2 books physically. One of them was a DNF, so I mean, take that as you will. As for my star ratings, I had 7 5 stars, 12 4 stars, 7 3 stars, 1 2 star, no 1 stars, and then 1 book that I didn't rate. For my genre breakdowns, I read 12 romances, 7 fantasies, 2 contemporaries, 2 historical fictions, 1 dystopian, 1 poetry, 1 nonfiction, 1 thriller, and 1 mystery. For my age breakdown, I read 11 YA books. I read 9 new adult books, 7 adult books, and 1 middle grade book. For my representation, I had 6 books with mental health rep, 2 books with disability rep, 2 books with illness rep, which means that 18 of the books that I read this month had no representation in them at all. As for my POC authors, I read 8 books written by POC authors, which means that 20 of them were not. And I read 8 books with POC characters and 20 books without. As for my LGBTQIA plus representation, I read 2 books where the main character was part of the LGBTQI plus community, 5 books where it was present in a side character, and 21 books with no rep at all. 3 of the books had bisexual rep, 2 books had gay representation, 1 book with lesbian representation, and 1 book with non-binary rep. I read 25 books this month written by women, 1 book written by a man, 1 book written by a non-binary author, and 1 book written by multiple authors. I read 19 books this month that were part of a series. I read 9 standalones, and I finished 5 series this month. All the books that I read this month, I read them for the first time, which is amazing. Now for my publication years, I read 4 books published in 2021, 9 books published in 2020, 1 book published in 2019, 3 books published in 2018, 1 book published in 2017, 3 books published in 2016, 1 book published in 2015, 3 books published in 2014, 1 book published in 2011, 1 book published in 2010, and 1 book published in 2009. And finally, for my color breakdowns, I read 9 black books, 6 blue books, 5 green books, 3 white books, 2 pink books, 1 orange book, 1 yellow book, and 1 brown book. And stay tuned for the end of the video to figure out what my favorite book of the month was and my favorite quote of the month. Okay, so starting off finally with my first book, and that is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. I'm not going to talk about all of these in a huge amount of detail because there are so many to talk about, but I will talk about my favorites at length, and this just happens to be one of them. This is the last book in the Brown Sister series, and let me just tell you, I loved it so much. This follows Eve Brown, who is the youngest sister of the Brown sisters, and she's also the most spoiled. She is having a hard time with figuring out the path that she wants to do and what she wants to do with her life, and her parents finally have cut her off after her last job venture had kind of gone into the toilet, and they told her, no more, you are not getting any more of your trust fund money, you need to go find a job, you need to figure something out, and after a year of you getting your responsibilities in check, then you can get all of this stuff back. And so she runs away and ends up at this small town with a little Airbnb, and she walks into a group of interviews where she is now being interviewed for the position of the cook. And then you meet the male love interest, and his name is Jacob, and he is on the spectrum. He is autistic, and he doesn't like Eve at all. They end up getting in an altercation during the interview, and she ends up hitting him with his car, and she ends up now taking over the Airbnb, not the Airbnb, the B&B, the bed and breakfast, as he recuperates and recovers from their little accident. And from there, they create a relationship, and it's just so sweet and wholesome. I loved the characters in this. I loved the representation in here. I loved how the relationship came together and how calculating and different their relationship was. They both took into account each other's feelings and how one thing would affect how the other person was feeling. I love the fact that we also got the rest of the characters from the rest of the series in this book, as this is the conclusion. We got to see a little bit more of Danica and Zaf. We got to see a little bit more of Chloe and Red, and it was just so beautiful. The grandma that is in here is Gigi. She's just amazing, and I just loved every second of this book, and I'm so glad that I read it. So I'm really sad that the series is over. I will definitely be rereading these sometime soon because they just bring me so much love and excitement and happiness, and I just love them so much. If you haven't already read the series, please pick it up. I do have a very long review on my Goodreads for this book if you want to go check that out. It was amazing. Let's move on. And if you didn't guess, I gave that book a 5-star. It was amazing. All right, the next book I have here, I'm actually not going to talk about too much. If you guys watch my vlog where I read this, I have chosen not to talk about this author too much on my channel since he did go through some pretty big scandals a couple of years ago, and so I'm just going to breeze past this. I gave this book a 4-star. It's the first book in the Maze Runner series. I did enjoy it. I watched the movie previously, and I did really enjoy the movie, and so reading the book was quite interesting. I kind of already knew what was going to happen, so I was just waiting for things to happen, but I liked the pacing, I liked the characters, I liked how the story played out. I will be reading the rest of the series. I just won't be talking about them at length on my channel, so there's that. I gave it a 4-star. Let's move past this one. And the next book that I'm going to talk about is my first audiobook of the month, and it's actually my nonfiction pick for this month, and that was All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. This is a memoir manifesto of George M. Johnson's life growing up as a queer Black individual in today's society, and the way that they put their story together and really shared their experiences, their hurt, their triumph, their happiness, just was really so uplifting and enlightening, and it was just so beautifully well done. I really liked their writing style and the way that they shared so many hard things and hard topics, but really kept it vulnerable and real and heartfelt and lighthearted at times, and just really beautifully well done. It was a wonderful story about their life, and it was just, you know, it's kind of hard to rate memoirs based off of, you know, how do you rate somebody's life. I just rated it off my enjoyment. I gave it a 5-star. It was absolutely beautifully well done. I'm really so glad that I read it, and this author recently came out as non-binary, I believe last year. Somebody in my comments let me know that, so thank you so much for educating me on that. In their manifesto, they talk about being gay and not really about being a non-binary, so if that's something that you're looking for in this book, you're not really going to find that, but it was beautifully well done, and I would definitely read it again. It was such a beautiful audiobook. I really want a physical book so that I can reread it again at some point, but very well done and highly recommended if you're looking for a good memoir to listen to. All right, let's talk about my one and only 2-star of the month. This was rough. I was originally doing this for a video, and I was just having a just not great time with this video, so I ended up scrapping it because I just didn't want to force myself to read things I'm not enjoying. So unfortunately that video won't be coming to you guys, but I did pick up Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. I was trying to give authors that I had recently DNF'd or really disliked their books in the past, I was trying to give them another shot, but if this is any indication on how that video was going, yeah, I gave this book a 2-star. This follows a family after their daughter has drowned, and it's talking about the repercussions of losing somebody in your family and what that does to a family. However, I was so extremely bored throughout the entire thing. It was torturous to get through, and I wanted to rip my eyes out. I listened to the audiobook and physically read along with this one, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. This is supposed to be about the aftermath of their daughter dying, and a lot of the book was spent in the past talking about how the parents got together and the kids growing up. And I mean, I get that it was supposed to all like give us an explanation of how we ended up here, but it was just so boring to listen to. I just didn't care. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't care about the storyline. I just didn't care. I didn't care. That's all I really have to say about this. I think this is more of a me thing and not a book thing. I didn't like her first book. I didn't care for her writing style. That didn't change in this book. I feel bad that I didn't like it, but I didn't like it. So instead of continuing to hate on it, I'm just gonna move past it. I gave it a 2-star. Sorry. But let's move on to something that I did enjoy, like a lot. If you guys watched my TBR from last month, you will know that A Court of Mist and Fury was on my TBR. But it didn't stop there. I went and read the entire rest of the series, aside from A Court of Silver Flame by Sarah J. Maas. I went on a bender. I started this one, and then quickly finished it. Finished A Court of Wings and Ruin in a day-ish, and then this was a 6-hour audiobook. It was super short, but I blew through these. I was having a blast. I give every single one of them a 5-star. It was absolutely amazing. It was one of the best reading experiences I've ever had. It doesn't top House of Earth and Blood at all, but it is very high up there. It is like my second favorite book series in the entire world, aside from House of Earth and Blood, even though it's not a full series yet, although we did just get some news about a name and the color of the next book, so exciting. But yes, I love them. I love these characters. I can't really talk about these characters as a whole because it's very spoilery, but this series follows Feyre, who is in the human world, and when she's there hunting for her family, hunting for food, she accidentally kills a fairy, and she is kidnapped by the basically the king of the Spring Court and taken to live out her days in the Spring Court as a punishment for killing a fairy. But it happens also to be a Beauty and the Beast retelling, where they're trying to break the curse on Tamlin, who is the king of the Spring Court, and the curse that they have on their, what am I trying to say? Their court. Apparently I couldn't figure that out. It really changes, the plot line changes a hell of a lot from the first book, but I loved every single second of it. I love these characters. The inner circle is just, nothing compares. It's amazing. I love the romance. It's smutty as hell. It's everything that I could have wanted in books and more, and I am so glad that I read them. I just want to cry every time I think about them, and I want to reread them like tomorrow. 5 stars, best thing I've read in a while. Sarah J. Maas continues to kill it, and I'm not surprised. Thank you. That was my TED Talk, and you're welcome. Okay, up next, we have another book that was on my TBR, and that is This Train is Being Held by Esme Williams. Ooh, I gave this book a 3-star. It wasn't my favorite. This is not a book that I ever thought about after I read it. It was cute, it was good, but I had some issues with it. So this follows Isabel and Alex. They meet on the train station in New York City on several occasions, and this is actually, I believe it follows their experience together over a year, meeting each other at train stations. Alex is a baseball player, a very good baseball player that is getting ready to move on to the big leagues, and Isabel is a dancer, and she's really focused on dance and art and everything that comes along with that. And so they have very busy lives. They don't spend a lot of time with each other, and so their interactions in the train are their only times together, and that's how they build their relationship. I thought that part of the book was really cute. I like the fact that it was drawn out over a long period of time instead of insta-love, which was really awesome. But I found the female main character to be really, really insufferable. She chose to keep things from her love interest just because she didn't want to burden him, or she, you know, was too afraid that he would judge her for the things that she was going through. And it was just, just be honest. Just share the things that you want to share with him and move on. But it happened throughout the entire book, and it was just so frustrating to watch and to read. Also, but there was some good things about this book as well. The talk of systemic racism and racial profiling and police brutality was talked about in this book really well, and I really liked that. The main character, Alex, as well as, I believe, the main character, Isabel, is Cuban, and I believe Alex is Dominican. And so there is some representation for POC characters in here, as well as I believe the author is Cuban as well. So I mean, I liked some of the representation in here, but there is some trigger warnings in here as well for depression, suicide, attempted suicide. So go into it with some caution if you do want to read it. I do think it's worth the read. It just wasn't my favorite read for me. But take that with what you will. I don't know. Moving on. All right. And then I read an ebook that I was buddy reading with a friend, Cece. Again, I didn't love this one. This was the Lady of Devices series. I don't know the author, but I'll put the picture up on the screen. It was a historical fiction steampunk book. If you guys know anything about me, historical fiction is not my thing. Steampunk is really not my thing either. I'm the one that chose this, so you know this is all me, my bad. But it wasn't great. I didn't love it. It follows this girl who has very high standings in the world that she's in regards to her father and her status and you know, where she fits in this world. However, things definitely go downhill after her father passes away, and the new invention or the new idea of this time, which is I believe it was gas or something weird. He had basically invested all of their money into this, as well as other people's money, and the investment flopped, and all of these people were coming after him, and she was now in the lowest status of the low, and so she ended up having to abandon her home, abandon her family, and live on the streets. And it follows that storyline. It was very strange. It felt very disjointed. I didn't care for the writing style. I didn't care for the pacing. I didn't care for the plot. But it was a self-published book, and I didn't hate the experience of reading it, so I gave it a very basic 3-star. It was a very low 3-star. It barely scraped a 3-star, but it made it there. So I don't really know if I stand by that decision, but we're just gonna roll with it and move on. So that's that one. And then I listened to another audiobook and an e-arc of One of the Good Ones by Malika and Marissa Mulit. This was another part of that video where I was giving authors a second chance. They wrote Dear Haiti Love Lane last year, and I really did not like that book. I DNF'd it. I'm probably about 150 pages in. However, this was the exception to that video because I loved this book. I love this book so much. I think I ended up giving it a 4-star. It was really well done. This follows a family of 3 sisters, and one of the sisters dies after going to a protest and getting arrested, and she passes away. And it follows the repercussions of, you know, losing a family member and what that does to a family and the people that are left behind, and the feelings and grief that go along with that. And it mostly follows Happy, but it did follow Kezi's experience leading up to her death, and it follows Happy's perspective after her sister has died, and she's really struggling with how things were left with her sister after she passed, and the last things that were said to her, because they were not in good standing and they had some very big fights, and she's really struggling with figuring out how to move past that. So this had some really awesome representation for that. All of the characters in this cast, except for one, were a Black cast, which was great. There was some representation for a lesbian main character, which was awesome. And I think that all of it put together was really, really well done. I will say that the beginning of the book, the pacing was a little bit weird for me, and I had a hard time getting into the book, but once I was in it, I really enjoyed it. This is a book that will keep you on your toes once you get into it to the very end. And there was a lot of oh shit moments in this book that really kept me guessing, so I really enjoyed that one. All right, opposite of that one, I read The Black Kids by Christina Hamodes. Fucking shit, I never get it right. I read this book, and I think that because I had read The Black Kids and the One of the Good Ones right next to each other, I was now comparing them because these follow very similar types of books. They both talk about police brutality. They both talk about systemic racism. They both talk about, you know, microaggressions and figuring out how to battle those things. And this book is actually set in the 90s, right after Rodney King is beaten by the police and the ramifications of that. However, I just didn't really love the story. I felt very bored while reading it. I felt like it had some really good things, talked about some really important topics. There are some trigger warnings in this book for parental abuse, sexual assault, excessive drinking. So just go into that with some caution. But I think I spent too much time reading both books at the same time and then comparing them and finding that this one felt a little bit flat for me. I didn't like the writing style. It was very purple prose for me. It was just over the top pretty, and I like books like that, don't get me wrong, but it didn't feel like there was a reason or a need for it in this book in particular, and I just didn't love it. And I hate saying that because I love to read books that I feel like are representative of my life and the way that I've experienced the world. And so this one was really hard for me not to give it anything more than a 3-star, but I have to be honest with my ratings here. I just didn't love this one as much as I think that I should have. So I gave it a 3-star. It was okay. It just wasn't the book for me, unfortunately. All right, let's talk about some 5-star books. I listened to the very short 9-minute audiobook of The Hill We Climb. I don't remember the author on this, but I will put it up on the screen. This was the inaugurational poem that was recited at the inauguration of Joe Biden. It was done by a Black female character. Can we just talk about the fact that I just said Black female character about a real person? Yeah, that happened. And I just thought that the poem was really beautiful. I got it as a free audiobook through Libro FM because I am an affiliate with them. So I was able to get a free edition of that. So I just listened to that really quickly, and it was really well done. I really liked it. I gave it a 5-star. I thought that it was really beautiful. I think that it was a very beautiful poem of hope and hope for the future, and really what we could accomplish, but also the things that we've had to overcome to get here. And I think that it was just really well done. There's not too much to say about this, seeing as it was only 9 minutes and it was a short poetry reading, but I thought that it was really well done, really beautiful, and it really does give you hope, especially in the political climate that we're in and how much strife and unjust, like unrest that we have in our political climate. I think that it was a really beautiful poem, but also gives hope for us Black folks to know that, you know, we have the ability to have our voices heard about the things that matter when people are actually listening. So I thought that was really well done, and I'm really glad that I listened to it. Okay, and then we started on the smutty romance train. As I think every month now, I have gotten on this kick of, once I get done with my TBR, I'm like, okay, let's read all the romance I can read, and you will see that that definitely hit the fan quite a bit towards the end of the month. But the first book that I read was another big Penelope Douglas book. I read Birthday Girl last month, and it was my favorite book of the month. And so this month I read 2 books by Penelope Douglas, actually, but the first one that I read was Punk 57. This is a bully, mutual pining, interesting novel. I'm not gonna remember their names. Nope. Ryan and Misha? I think. Ryan and Misha. They are pen pals, and they have been pen pals for 7 years. And something happens on Misha's end, and they end up stopping, they're stopping communication. Ryan doesn't know why that's going on. Ryan is the girl, by the way. Misha is the guy. Ryan doesn't know why Misha has stopped his communication. However, she ends up getting into a relationship with this bad boy at school. He is very aloof, is very mean to her, and is very much a bully romance to its core. But she has no idea why this guy hates her so much, and she is struggling with trying to figure out why her best friend Misha has cut off connections. But she's also really struggling with her own family stuff and things going on in her personal life. And Misha knows that Ryan is his Ryan pen pal friend. And I don't know how to explain this without spoiling it, but basically you find out that Misha hates Ryan, and you don't really know why, and you are listening and watching their relationship come together as you're trying to figure out what secrets they've both been hiding, and how that's going to play into their relationship moving forward. I found out that I really like bully romances. I may have a problem. I was sitting there, you know, I read a lot of romances, and I read a lot of romances where unintentionally in the story, not written as a selling point, the characters are mean to each other, and I'm like, ew, they're the worst. And then I go and read a bully romance, and I'm sitting here like, damn, that's hot. I'm like, what's wrong with me? I had a little existential crisis while I was reading this one, but, you know, I enjoyed myself nonetheless. I gave it a 5-star. It was really, really good. I think that I explained it really badly, but I really enjoyed my experience. The only downside of reading this many smutty romances back to back is that they kind of get lost in the shuffle here. So if I forget things and I don't mention trigger warnings and stuff, bear with me here. I'm sorry, but I really enjoyed this one. If you're looking for another good Penelope Douglas, I would definitely recommend this one. I would have to say that Birthday Girl is still my favorite, but Punk 57 comes in at close second, so there's that. And then right after this, I read Bully by Penelope Douglas, which is another, you guessed it, bully romance. I honest to God don't remember anything about this book. Not a single thing, although I gave it a 4-star. I read them back to back, and I couldn't tell you. Give me a second. I'm gonna look it up on Goodreads, get myself reacquainted with the story, and then I'll try to tell you how I felt about it. I remember. Okay, I thought that's what this book was about, and then I didn't want to say it and be wrong, but this follows Tate, and she is best friends with her neighbor when they were young, and now they are in high school, and for the last few years, her neighbor, who his name's not in the synopsis, and I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, but he now hates her. He has been her biggest bully for the last couple of years, and she has no idea what happened, what changed their relationship, but she knows that he hates he hates her. So she goes on this trip to France to get away from him for the summer, and now she's back, and she is determined not to let him ruin her senior year. But things start to change when they find out that maybe there's some mutual pining going on, but there's also the kind of question as to why all of these years he's treated her the way that he's treated her. And I will say that this one was not my favorite Penelope Douglas. I gave this one a 4-star. But seeing as it didn't really stick in my head very much, I'm not really sure it maybe deserves that 4-star. I did enjoy my reading experience while I read it, but it didn't stick in the brain the way it should have. So we're gonna move on before I tell you something that's not even true about this book and get you all confused. So let's move on. All right, same thing, on the same romance train, I read The Mistake. This is by Elle Kennedy. This is the second book in the Off-Campus series. I also really enjoyed this one. I gave it a 4-star. It wasn't, I don't think I gave The Deal a 5-star either. They were both 4-star reads for me. This one, again, Grace and Logan. I did it. Grace, I think his name is Logan. We'll just roll with it. Grace and Logan, this is Logan. Logan is the best friend of Grayson, I believe his name is, in the first book in the series. They are roommates in this off-campus place that they live, and that's the reason why it's called off-campus. And he starts to have a thing for this girl named Grace. However, after their relationship starts to get a little bit deeper, he makes a big mistake that he ends up really regretting, and he spends the rest of their college experience together trying to rectify the mistakes that he made. He's also a hockey player, and so that kind of plays into it as well. Same thing as the first book. I always enjoy seeing, now I've learned this about myself, I enjoy seeing sports in books. I think that it's really fun, especially when it's kind of given to you in a little bit more detail. But Grace has, you know, not very much experience in life, and she really put her trust in Logan. And when this mistake is made, she is really trying to figure out whether or not she has the ability to trust him again and give him a second chance. And after she takes a trip with her mother to Paris, she decides that she is swearing off Logan forever, and she needs some time. However, he is not giving her that. He's going to fight for this relationship because he knows that it's what he wants. And so that's what the book follows. I think that I went in with the synopsis of thinking that this mistake was going to happen pretty early on in the book, and it actually happens like 50% into the book, and so I felt like the pacing was a bit off for me, but I enjoyed the smutty scenes, I enjoyed the relationship together, I enjoyed how much Logan fought for her and really put in all of his effort to realize the mistakes that he made and the growth that he put into understanding why he made those mistakes. And I really enjoyed it. I think that it was overall a good book. The next book follows Dean, who's one of my favorite characters, and so I will definitely be reading that one ASAP. But I really enjoyed it, and will definitely continue on with the series. All right, up next we have Fury Born by Claire Legrand. We're getting back into some physical reads. This was my book club pick for the month of April. Have I done a live show for it? No, I don't want to talk about it. Let's move on. I really enjoyed this though. I gave it a 4-star. I didn't quite give it that 5-star, but it still was really good. I'm going to butcher the synopsis of this one, but this follows two perspectives. One follows Riel, who is a very powerful woman in this world, and this world is very known for its prophecy of the two queens that are going to come to Earth, and one is going to save it, the other one's going to destroy it. The Sun Queen and the Blood Queen, and Riel is manifesting some powers that she might explain that she is one of these queens, but nobody knows which one she is. And then you follow another perspective 1,000 years into the future, and what is her name? Oh. Eliana has the ability to heal her body, as well as her body can withstand a lot more than a normal body should. And because of that, she's a very well-known assassin and a wraith, if you will. And you're following the two perspectives and how they interconnect over this 1,000-year gap, and the role that both of them play in this huge economic and political downpour of what's going to happen. And it was really, really good. It was very fascinating. The twists and turns were very good. However, I did find it a tad bit predictable, but other than that, I really enjoyed the way that this book fleshed out. I really enjoyed the magic system. I really enjoyed the multiple perspectives and how the author paced both of those perspectives, because I think that it could have been very, very messy, but the author kept it very concise, very understandable, and it was just so much fun to read. I really enjoyed this. I really liked the male main character in this book. His name is Simon. He has my heart, and I really am excited to read the second book in the series. I've heard nothing but good things, so I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that I can get my hands on that one soon and read it ASAP. Okay, then I went down a rabbit hole of a romance series that I started and finished this month, and that is the Madison Kate series. This is by Tate James, and holy goodness, it was amazing. I gave all books in the series 5 stars. It was a wild ride from start to finish. This follows Madison Kate, who at the very beginning of the book, she is really into this fighter. His name is the Archer. Nobody really knows his real name, but she goes to this fight on Halloween night to go see him, and right before the fight is about to end, some stuff goes down and the whole building is thrown into chaos. Guns are going off, people are dying all around her, and she ends up on the run, and she is saved by these 3 guys from a rival gang that lives in their town. However, after being saved by these 3 guys, she is then framed by these same 3 guys for a crime that she didn't commit, and she ends up serving some jail time and going away for 11 months. And when she comes back, she finds out that her dad has married the mother of one of the guys that saved her, and she is now living in the house with all 3 of them. However, big twist, this is a reverse harem situation where the female main character gets with all 3 of the guys, and let me tell you, it was smutty. It was real smutty. This is definitely a bully romance, so go into that with some caution. There are a ton of trigger warnings in this book. If you could think about them, it's got them. Yeah, so sexual assault, excessive drinking, drugs, lots of stuff, suicide. Just go in with some caution. It's a crazy, wild series with a lot going on, but let me tell you that I loved every single second of them. I stayed up till 5 o'clock in the morning reading these books, and it was a wild ride. I will let you know, if you don't like cliffhangers, don't read the series, because every single book leaves off on a cliffhanger. So just beware of that, but man, it was wild. I loved it, and when I got to the end, there was no guy that I loved more. I love them all equally, and they have a special place in my heart, and I cannot wait to reread them. I want physical copies of these because they were just amazing, and I loved it. So if you are into smutty romance and you do like reverse harem and you like some bully romance, I would definitely recommend this because it was so much fun. So much fun. A customer actually recommended it to me, and I was like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's talk about the book that I DNF'd, and that is The Demon King by Cinda Williams-Chima. I tried. I did. I gave it 60 pages, and I just couldn't do it. I didn't like the writing style. It was very confusing, very choppy. I was very confused. It's told from multiple perspectives, and I just couldn't wrap my head around the damn book. I tried the audiobook. I tried to read it physically. I listened to the audiobook, I think like 20 pages in, then I went and stopped, restarted physically, and read 40 pages, and it wasn't for me. I was buddy reading this one. She also DNF'd it. It wasn't for me. Sorry. If you really think that I should give this one a retry and try again, please let me know. But I couldn't do it. So we're moving on. All right, the next book that we're going to talk about is one that has been very, very hyped, both here on Booktube, on Bookstagram, and on Book Talk, and that is From Blood and Nash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. You guys, I don't think that people should compare books to Sarah J. Maas for me, because nothing ever compares. I think that I was setting myself up for failure here by thinking that it was going to be as good as My Queen, and it just wasn't. I gave it a 3-star. It wasn't a bad book by any means. I just found the pacing of this book was a little meh. The predictability on this book was through the roof. I predicted pretty much the entire book from chapter like 5, aside from a detail or 2, but as soon as the foreshadowing of those details were placed into the book, I knew exactly how this was going to go down from that page on. And so it made the book feel even longer than it was because I already knew what was going to happen. Like, I just felt it in my bones. And if I can, sum that up from, just a few pages of reading, then it's not great. However, I liked the sexy scenes in here. I liked the romance. I liked the fantasy world, although I think that she needs to do a little bit more work on building this world because it was very tell and not show. Show and not tell? I don't really know. Something was missing, and I needed a little bit more. I am excited for book 2 and book 3. I will definitely continue on with the series. I just was a little bit let down by this book because the hype was just so high, and so many people were comparing it to Sarah J. Maas, and I do think that it has some very big Sarah J. Maas indicators, some things that are in the same vein, but next time, just don't tell me that. And I think I'll experience it more and better if I'm not trying to, compare it to Queen, Sorry. All right, another romance that I read on my Kindle was Bound by Honor. This was a mafia romance. I think it was supposed to be a dark bully romance as well. This was recommended to me from a Booktuber that I was watching, and I thought I would give it a go. This was probably my least favorite new adult or adult romance, however you want to categorize that one, that I read this month. It just was lacking. It felt short, even though it was a few hundred pages. It lacked the time needed to build this relationship. This follows a girl whose father runs one side of the mafia, and she is promised to marry somebody else in the mafia to help with tying the two mafia families together. And so at age 16, she's promised to him. She waits a few years until she's of age 18. Then they get married, and she's forced to live with him, and then they fall in love, yada, yada, yada. Except it just felt very forced. It didn't feel very authentic and real. I did like the smutty scenes. That was great. But other than that, I just didn't feel any love connection between these characters, even though they claimed that they loved each other, and I wasn't sold. So I read this one, I liked it, I gave it a 3-star. It was okay. I don't know if I'll read more from this author. It wasn't my favorite thing that I've read, and definitely compared to some of the other new adult dark romances that I have read, this isn't my favorite. So that's that. All right, next we have Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. I also gave this book 3 stars. This was another book that I was slightly disappointed by, unfortunately. Just because I just heard so much about this book, and I think the hype was a bit too high for me. Clint, who is one of my good friends here on Booktube, he sent this over to me, so thank you so much for sending it to me. I will definitely continue on with the series. It just wasn't, it wasn't the best thing I've ever read. This follows, not gonna remember her name, nope, Audrey Rose. I found her name finally. I had to flip through the entire book. Audrey Rose is her name, and she is very mischievous, especially because this is set in the 1800s, where women are not really meant for doing anything other than marrying and being a good wife. But she is really into forensic science, and her uncle works basically in a morgue where he does autopsies on dead bodies, and she is all in that jazz. She loves it. And a serial killer comes into town, aka Jack the Ripper, and she is a part of the investigation, and she's really into trying to figure out who Jack the Ripper is. The only problem that I have with this is, for me, Jack the Ripper was pretty damn obvious, and the character was so blinded by her stupidity that she couldn't figure it out until the person was standing right in front of her, telling her, like, hey, I did this, and she was like, no, it couldn't be you. And it was just very frustrating. I read it, I liked it. The experience of getting to that point was very fun and very thrilling and very exciting, which is why I gave it a 3-star, but the character was just so stupid and insufferable, and it was really hard for me to get through that, but I did enjoy it. Seeing as this is historical fiction, not usually my thing, but I still really enjoyed it. I will definitely continue on with the series. The one saving grace in this book was Thomas. He is a gem, and I loved him in this book, and I cannot wait to read more of him because he was my favorite character, hands down. He reminds me of a young Sherlock Holmes, and I love it. I love it to my core. Thank you very much. I swear we're coming to the end. We have City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. I buddy read this with Mike. I really enjoyed this. This follows a girl named Cassidy Blake who had a near-death experience, and after coming back from that near-death experience, English, she is able to communicate with ghosts. Her new best friend is a ghost, and she ends up going to Ireland with her family. Her parents are really into ghost stories. Her mom is a big believer in the supernatural. However, her dad is more of the science history man and less about the supernatural and the paranormal. But she ends up going on this trip with them as they are cast for a TV show where they walk through different places of the world to hunt down ghosts. However, Cassidy is really not a big fan of this because after her near-death experience, she has the ability to move into the veil and speak and see people's deaths and kind of experience them. So she's not really excited to be walking into the face of more ghosts, but she ends up meeting somebody who has the same ability as her and shows her that maybe there's more to this whole other world than she had expected. And so it's their experience going through Ireland, Edinburgh, Ireland, and dealing with some ghosts. It was a really fun middle grade book. I'm really excited to continue on with the series. It was a lot of fun. I gave it a 4-star. Victoria Schwab never seems to disappoint, and I'm really excited to move on with it. Up next, I buddy read another book with a group that we have on Facebook with Clint and a few other really good friends, and we read the Bromance Book Club by Lisa K. Adams. This follows Gavin, who is a baseball star, and Thea, who they are married. They have been married for a few years. They have twin girls together. But however, one day Gavin finds out that Thea has been faking the big O for several months now, actually their entire marriage, and their relationship is in shambles. They are on the verge of a divorce, and the teammates from Gavin's baseball team, as well as some other friends of theirs, have this book club, which is very secretive. The first rule of book club is you never talk about book club, and they read romance novels to help them have successful relationships. And Gavin is pulled into this book club because they want to help him save his marriage, and that's what this book follows. It was very cute. I gave it a 4-star. It was really awesome to see an already established relationship, which was, you know, really, really broken. It was just beautiful to see Gavin fight for this relationship and heal the things that he knew he needed to heal, but also give people the permission to do the same, other people in his life the permission to do the same. And it was just really, really, really beautiful. I loved it. It was funny. It was cute. I read this one physically, and I just had a blast reading it. I read it in just a few days. It was just so much fun, and I really enjoyed it. I'm definitely looking forward to continuing on with the series, especially seeing as I just finished the Brown Sister series. I need another good romance series to get me through my sadness, my despair. But I really enjoyed it and definitely recommend this one if you're looking for a good adult romance. All right, my second to the last book. I promise we're getting to the end. We have The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. This was on my most anticipated list of the year for this year, and I'm really excited that I was able to receive this from Owlcrate. So thank you so much to Owlcrate for sending me this edition. And I did read it, and I gave it a 4-star. I really enjoyed it. I think the pacing was a bit weird for me, and it took me a little while to get into the actual storytelling of the book, but once we got there, it was very, very well done. This follows Decca, who is getting ready at the age of 16 to go into her initiation ceremony, where they test her blood to see if she is pure and if she can be acclimated into normal society. However, at the day of her ceremony, her blood runs gold, which is a signifier of a demon, and she ends up sentenced to death. But while she is waiting for a death to come, she gets brought into this elite group of warriors who are the same as her, but she finds out that she may have a bigger role to play in this entire world than she had thought, and she may have some more unusual powers than the rest of her comrades and peers. And the book divulges from there. It's really, really interesting. I really like the magic system. This is set in African folklore, which is really awesome. I like the representation. I really liked how much important topics were talked about in this book in a fantasy aspect, but still paralleling to society really well. I also really enjoyed the idea of racism from your own race, and how colorism is really, I think, swept under the rug. A lot of people don't think about that as a form of racism, but can really be hurtful to those that experience it. So I really enjoyed this. I thought that it was a really interesting book. I love the aspects of it, the fantasy aspects of it. The magic system was really awesome. And I really enjoyed some of the characters that were in here. I'm really excited for book 2, so hopefully that'll get a little bit more into where this book goes in the end, because you definitely are left with some answers by the end. I mean, some questions by the end, and some answers, but lots of questions as well. So I'm really excited to continue on with this series. All right, and the last book that we have here, my lord, we made it, and that is Fake It Till You Break It. It was another new adult romance that I read about a girl and a guy. The guy hates her. The girl cannot figure out why. They have been next door neighbors, and they used to be friends, and now they're not anymore. He has hated her for years, and she doesn't know why, but one day when she's trying to get the attention of a guy that she's had a crush on for years, she decides to fake date with Nico. I think that is his name. I think that's his name, Nico. She decides to fake date with him and to get the attention of this other guy. But of course, you guys know, fake dating turns into real dating. Real feelings get hurt, and there's a big blow up, and happily ever after. Did I spoil the book? Probably, but that's the formula of every freaking romance I've ever read. So is it really a spoiler? I think not. I enjoyed it. I gave it a 4-star. I thought that it was a really fun... I lied. I gave it a 3-star. I gave it a 3-star. It was a fun book. I enjoyed it. But when you read as many adult romances as I did in 1 month, you start to compare them all, you know? It's a lot of comparing. And I just think that some of the characters were a little bit insufferable. Miscommunication was the biggest hardship in this book, and I'm not a huge fan of miscommunication unless it's done right. And in this case, it just wasn't necessarily done right. It wasn't done wrong either, but it just wasn't my favorite way that she could have gone about using this trope. So that's it. I enjoyed it. It was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't the best book that I've ever read, but I read it and I gave it a 3-star. But let's talk about the best book I read this month, because we are at the end. We finally made it. Oh, praise the Lord. This is a long video, and if you guys made it through, you guys are troopers for real. You guys are real ones. But my favorite book of the month, I'm sure no one is surprised. That's the wrong one. A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. Are you surprised? No, you're not. Neither am I. But I stand by the rest of the Sarah J. Maas trash stands that say that this is the best book in the series, because it really was. It was the best book for world building. It was the best book for political intrigue. It was the best book for despair. It was the best book for tearing my soul in two, but it was also the best book for watching characters love each other with all the passion in the world and figuring out whatever they can to make it back to each other. And it was so good. And the smutty scenes in this book, oh my god. Holy shit. But yeah, I'm done talking about Sarah J. Maas. For now, that is. Wait till next month. I have a whole nother spiel coming, because I'm reading A Court of Silver Flame right now, and it's amazing. So that is the end of this video. If you made it to the end, first of all, thank you. I love you very much. But if you made it to the end, leave a butterfly emoji. Butterfly. That's it. That is the end of this video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books, what you thought about them, what you guys were able to read in the month of April. How did you do? How many books did you read? Let me know all of that information down below so I can chat with you guys. But that is the end of this video. I really, really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave. And of course, leave any comments, questions, and suggestions in the comment section below. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.